Welcome to Five Star Conversations, where we talk to hoteliers making an impact on our industry. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Jürgen Baumhoff. Welcome, Jürgen.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you online, Brandon.
It's a pleasure, Jürgen. So, Jürgen is a globally recognized hospitality and tourism leader with a distinguished career spanning over 40 years in senior positions and probably more time in the industry than that. With extensive experience as a general manager and chief executive officer across prestigious brands like Intercontinental, Emaar Hospitality, and Qatar Hospitality, he has successfully overseen major hotel openings, spearheaded multi-million-dollar renovation projects, and led strategic repositioning efforts. His career demonstrates a profound ability to drive operational success, enhance guest experiences, and manage complex hospitality portfolios across diverse regions. Well, welcome again, Jürgen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Jürgen, the question I always like to start with is, did you choose hospitality or did it choose you?
Good question. Yeah, I think it went both ways. One of the things was when I finished my school, and you can hear from my accent that I'm originally from Germany, when I finished my school, my high school, a lot of my friends went to university, do law, medicine, etc. I kind of wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I always kind of enjoyed being around with people. I loved sports. And then suddenly I was drafted into the German army, and I thought, oh, well, okay. I kind of became a volunteer for 2 years. And I think during that time, I had a good chance to look at my life, what I wanted to do. I became an officer, junior officer. I was able to lead a group of people, and I need to have a job which has to do with people.
Right.
Coincidentally enough, I came across a book from Arthur Hailey, an American author. And when you read the book, it actually played in a hotel in San Francisco, the Fairmont Hotel, famous hotel. And the GM kind of, all in the book, it was about the GM's experience with fantastic, well-known guests and the kind of life he had, welcoming guests in the lobby and in the restaurants and the high life he lived. And I kind of said, well, that might be something for me. So this is when I decided to move into the hotel business. I don't have anyone in my family or even nearest relatives who have any background in hospitality. So I'm the only one, still the only one in hospitality. But that's how I got into it, and never regretted it, to be honest.
Isn't that interesting? From a book. And it was a true story, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, in fact, it was made into a American TV series.
Okay.
Can't remember who was the main actor. It's a long time ago, but yes, it was all about the glorifying part of a general manager.
Yeah.
Now, not everything is like that because you got to run the business in the background, but it was that constant engagement with well-known guests, and
Yeah.
it kind of just seemed like a little bit unreal world.
Yes.
And yeah, I thought at that time that might be a good idea. So the next step was to find the right hotel company who could develop me in that career.
Where did you start your career in hotels?
Actually, Kempinski.
Yeah.
And when I started with Kempinski, and I started at the what you call the Hotel Vier, Jahreszeiten in Munich. It says Four Seasons, but it's not part of the Four Seasons group. It's Kempinski. At that time, Kempinski was purely a German company,
Mhm.
and it had affiliation with Lufthansa German Airlines and, funny enough, Intercontinental, who were part shareholders in the hotel in Munich. And I met the GM, who was very well known in the hotel world in Germany. And kind of I remember I met him in the lobby, and the Jahreszeiten lobby in Munich is famous. And he interviewed me, and I was so excited because that lobby reminded me of the lobby of the Fairmont in San Francisco. But he said that it would be a very challenging career, and you got to develop a lot of passion. And yeah, I have to say, that's where I learned, and it was a fantastic education at that time. We didn't have bachelor or masters in hospitality at that time. The most you could do is diploma, advanced diplomas in hospitality. and you would at the same time work in a hotel to get your practice. And I remember during that time, it was like a management apprenticeship. I went to school at the same time, learned all the academia, but at the same time worked in a hotel, and I worked in every department: housekeeping, kitchens, restaurants, bars, name it, front office. And it was a very much a hands-on job.
Mm.
And because of the reputation of the hotel, you couldn't do anything wrong. You had to be extremely on top of everything because it was known already as one of the best hotels in Germany and in Munich. And I have to say, at that time, the leadership style was quite hierarchical. So when the GM walked around, he was like, "Mm, yeah, you have to be on." But it was a great lesson, I have to say.
Yep. And from Kempinski, did you go into IHG? Could you spend a lot of time
Yeah,
with IHG and obviously
yeah, I spent a long time with
well,
IT. In fact, no, in fact, after Kempinski, I kind of felt that I needed to have more experience on the ground. So I went to Geneva. I spent time in Geneva to work at the Hotel Le Richemont. That was also to kind of learn my French. I learned French in school, but I wanted to be fluent in French. And I did a practice there. And I went also in between to a cooking school in Lucerne because I felt, and that was only 6 months, I didn't want to become a chef. I enjoyed eating and I still enjoy cooking today at home. But I wanted to learn and understand what chefs do in the kitchen, how
yeah,
tough the job is to deliver a fantastic meal to the guest in the restaurant.
yeah.
I think that was absolutely great. And from there, I joined Intercontinental Paris and funny enough, I didn't like my title, although I was assistant chief steward. It said responsable du planche. And if you translate it in English, it says responsible for the dishwasher. Now, I kind of didn't think I wanted to tell my friends who studied medicine and law that I would be in charge of the dishwashing area in Paris, but again, in one of the great hotels of Intercontinental. I really learned to work with people. I learned hands-on, I learned different shifts. I knew how hard hospitality really can be, how hard it is also to have constant change of employees. You got conflicts with employees and you had to manage and lead. And I kind of enjoyed that part because I could get my hands dirty and I could really feel the results, even though in a small way. It was fantastic. And that was my first stint with Intercontinental. And I had many years with Intercontinental afterwards with different
Yes.
brands. Crown Plaza, Holiday Inn in Kowloon in Hong Kong,
Yep.
which was one of the very great experience. I had a fantastic team there. It was most enjoyable working in Hong Kong. It was all about working hard and playing hard. That was Hong Kong at that time. It was still British colony.
Mm.
And I had, when I started there, over 1,000 employees to manage. And in a total cultural different part of the world, it was such an amazing learning curve. But it was all about adapting first, adapting to the needs, and then working with the teams. And I look back, this was one of the greatest times I had. From there, I migrated to Australia. I became permanent resident. I managed the Crown Plaza brand in Tergal,
Mhm.
New South Wales on the Central Coast for a while. After that, I was moved to Munich. I went back to a little bit home site in Germany. And at that time, Penta, there was a group of Penta hotels, which was owned by 5 different airlines. That group doesn't exist anymore, but Intercontinental bought over the hotel. That's the time when Intercontinental was bought over, and the hotel was supposed to become a Holiday Inn. I stayed there 2 years. We did quite a bit of renovation and repositioning of the hotel when the company said, "We want you to do a new job," and they moved me to Intercontinental Tel Aviv to open it. So, and I come back to the part why Israel, for example, is we at that time, our president of Europe, Intercontinental, and our international worldwide president based in the US, he said, if you want to make a career with Intercontinental, you have to have worked on at least 3 continents, speak 3 languages at least, and have worked in 1 hardship location. Now, if I look back, yes, I've managed it. This was one of the reasons I was sent to Tel Aviv opening a hotel, which was in 1998, and which was during the crisis, the start of the crisis, when the US and British targeted some of the sites in Iraq. We kind of went through quite a difficult times before the opening of the hotel, and we had a great success in opening the hotel and moving it forward. Today, the David Intercontinental Tel Aviv is one of the most successful hotels in Israel as well. And it was an amazing learning curve. I get the shivering when I still think of the time living there, the intense of working in Israel, the intense of running a hotel, and the intense working with the local people. It's fantastic. And look, and from there, like I said, company said, president said, Jürgen, you've done a great job. You've opened a hotel, we're making money, we'll send you to London. And coming back to London, I remember I was a junior employee. I was actually still an apprentice at the Kempinski when I told you from the days one. But because Intercontinental owned a percentage of the hotel, we were entitled to get staff discount at Intercontinental hotels worldwide. I stayed at $25 at the Intercontinental Park Lane in London with friends. And at that time I said, oh God, one day I'd like to be general manager of this hotel. Well, I moved to London. I became first general manager of the Churchill Intercontinental in London or Portman Square, which is now a Hyatt. And I was there GM for 2 years. And then I became GM of the Intercon Park Lane and area GM for London. And it was like, God, I remember the time when I was an apprentice and I wanted to become GM. And here I am now a GM, not just of the hotel, but of Central London, which is all the top Western hotels. At that time, Intercon used to own the Mayfair Intercontinental in Mayfair. Unfortunately, they sold it. It's one of those things when you become asset light, as most or 99% all of the hotel companies are nowadays. They just have management contracts. It was a pity to see some of these properties go. But again, London for me was a highlight of my career to work and manage Intercon properties in London. And yeah, that was Intercontinental. And yeah, because of my affiliation with the church, which at that time and still today is owned by the former Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Qatar. And I had a great relationship with him, and he was very supportive to me in my career. He asked me to come to Qatar and join him to run at that time, the company was Qatar National Hotels Company, which is now known as Qatar, which is one of the major hotel asset owners in the world. And yeah, I was moved over there, and suddenly I found myself as CEO of a national hotel company and kind of reporting into a ministry of finance. It was again a total different world, very political, again, very hierarchical. And I was able to build a team of hoteliers, bring in a lot of good ex-colleagues and hoteliers into the company and kind of set up and position Qatar National Hotels at that time as a modern hotel asset management and hotel management company. In fact, at that time, we even started our own brand called Merweb, which still exists today. But again, a long story short, it was again something to take on and change for the better for the future. And this is why Qatar developed to what it is today. And there have been many people after me who've taken the company further, in particular with the wealth of funds of Qatar in driving new properties and owning new properties around the world. Yeah, and things, in life change. You move jobs, you've done your job, you've been nearly 5 years in Qatar. I moved back to Australia for a while. Then I took on a job as chief operating officer in Dubai with Emaar. And I've done that for 1.5 years. I could have done it longer, but well, sometimes you get hired away and I actually forgot a couple of positions. See, that's the thing. I've done so many things. I forgot Bahrain. I forgot my time at the Semiramis Intercontinental in Cairo, where I was GM, which was in between, not coming after Dubai. I was hired back to join Intercontinental, but not Intercontinental itself, rather a master franchise, which was owned by a Saudi conglomerate. And the Saudi conglomerate, they own also the Semiramis Intercontinental Cairo, where I was GM. I knew the owners very well, and they said, Jürgen, come back to Europe. I want you to run our franchise. You're a great manager. So I took on the Intercontinental Geneva, plus 2 Crown Plazas, one in Zurich, one in Geneva, as general manager and area manager, but under master franchise. I reported into the owner. So I did both management and asset management at the same time. And again, I ended up with Intercontinental, until late 17. And the Intercon Geneva is what you call the guest house of the United Nations. In Geneva is virtually 5 minutes walk is the United Nations of Geneva. And during my days running the hotel, I had the opportunity to meet all the good and all the bad and the very best of people in politics, including some of our prime ministers here in Australia. So another great experience. So I left out a couple of things because, like, I look back, sometimes I've done so many things. And I came back in late 17. I started up my own boutique advisory. Once hospitality, always hospitality.
Yeah.
Once passion for hospitality, always passion for hospitality. And I just couldn't see myself not doing anything in hospitality. So I started up my own boutique advisory, MetaPoint, and I can tell you a bit about MetaPoint, where it comes from, but I really focus on mentoring, coaching, helping individual owners, developers to develop their dream in terms of hotel or boutique hotel development. I'm working with teams to coach them in mentoring, and a lot of people I come across don't understand hospitality as such. I working since 5 years on a beautiful project in the southern western part of Western Australia. Also working on a project at the moment in Africa. A lot of things you can do now online. So I'm still as keen as I was when I had my first GM position. And what's driven me, I think, is the word change. People change. And I had the very good fortune when I was GM in Hong Kong at the Holiday Inn many, many years back, that we had a motivational speaker which was organized for the general manager team of Asia Pacific, a gentleman called John Emmett, who is a Canadian, and he kind of did all the adventures anyone can do in the world. And he was one of the first Canadian to lead successfully a team up to Mount Everest and stand on top. His message about change and understanding change and where change can be positive, not just for the business, but for the people in the business, and people can drive change. But we became very close, and I used this change metaphor and the metaphor he created in most of the businesses I used to run, but I used to do it through the people, because our business is all about people. You cannot run our business without people. You can have all the technology in the world, but the technology is only there to make it easier for the people to do their job. So
you've had such an interesting career, Jürgen. I've heard the story about the managing director for IHG having those 3 criteria from another guest, but just picking out a couple of points, obviously, and it seems to be quite similar. The first thing, you obviously were quite passionate and open to traveling. You've been everywhere, and previous guests have always said as well, if you're open to travel, then, for want of a better term, the world is your oyster when it comes to hospitality. And the other thing is that I can see that obviously a lot of your career was based on the relationships you developed, as you said, moving to Qatar, then moving to Dubai. So relationships and people are the backbone of hospitality, right?
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Right. And today, with my advisory, and one of the things I always say and tell other, young people in particular, never close the door.
Mm,
Always maintain the relationship. And today with social media and there's so many options we have to stay in touch.
yep.
I always found a way of staying in touch with people I worked with. And it's not just people I reported to or people who worked with me on the same level or my department heads. I'm in touch with some of the junior employees in Cairo at the Semiramis who I helped and coached while I was GM to kind of move up the ladder. And today I'm still, and they're in touch with me. As a boutique advisory now, do I know everything? No, of course not. But for any purpose, for any development I'm getting involved with,
Yep.
something I don't know, I know someone who knows. And I have a wide network, and I have people who say, yeah, Jürgen, I'm going to come and help you. Obviously, not for free, but yes, we're there to assist each other. So I'm not just a one-man show. I can be more.
100%. There's years of experience and connections, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a funny or memorable experience, probably from the early part of your career, that cemented that love in hospitality?
Yes. I mean, there are lots of funny stuff, and it's all links back to where I started at the hotel Vier in Kempinski in Munich. In fact, when I was in the banqueting department, every year we have the dinner for the diplomatic corps together with Bavarian state government in our ballroom. And it was a very formal black tie dinner where you have the diplomatic corps coming together with the head of state, or we would call here the premier of Bavaria. And the service was very elegant, and you have to carry in, and it's not a plated service. You have to take from the, let's say, from the pot, you have to put onto the plate. Sorry, what you call it? Anyway, yeah, the serving. And I kind of was leading the group in and everyone was marching behind me. And remember, I was an apprentice. I was ending up behind the premier's back. He was sitting at the head of the table. And just imagine, I was so nervous. The pot swayed in my hand and the whole vegetables fall down the back suit of the premier of Bavaria. You can't believe anything worse happening to an apprentice
Yeah.
who wants to do well at such a dinner. Well, I don't have to tell you the result of it. I mean, obviously, everything was fine, and he took it with a lot of good humor. And he was quite famous actually in German politics. But the next day it was in the newspaper, and obviously not my name, but that apprentice waiter. So it was like the most embarrassing moment in my life. But I was able to continue my apprenticeship. But coming back to later, because even though I did my apprentice, I spent also, if you look at my background, I was also the number 2 at the Jahreszeiten Kempinski in Munich for a period of time. And during that time, again, because of the type of hotel, the location, the reputation, we had a lot of well-known people staying with us. Sean Connery, James Bond, right? Sean Connery, they played the movie in Bavaria, they filmed called In the Name of the Rose. He played a monk, Sean Connery. And while he was filming the movie in Bavaria, he was staying for 2 months at the Fias and Kempinski Munich. And obviously, at that time, I like to be in the lobby, welcome them back after filming and all that. That's what you do. He knew my name. He said, Jürgen, come, let's have a drink at the bar. So we're sitting for a couple of hours in the evening and having a drink in the bar with Sean Connery. And again, you remember coming back to Fairmont, the book Arthur Hailey.
Yeah.
I was able to sit with Sean Connery, which I had a lot more admiration for his role as James Bond. And yeah, I've got many stories like that. because in the hotels I worked, I always had a chance to meet some well-known people if they're from entertainment or they're from politics. And I have to say, the book is true. Arthur Hailey wrote correctly. You can have that kind of life, but it's not all like that. The back of the house is hard work, business is hard work. You got to there to make money. But yeah, this kind of, after that, I said, yeah, I got to continue.
Interesting. Wow. Jürgen, before the interview, I asked you if you could have anything printed on a t-shirt, what would that be? And you said, think possibilities. Fantastic. I love that, Jürgen. Think possibilities.
Think possibilities.
Can you explain where that statement comes from and what it means to you?
Yeah, I think when you asked me before, I was kind of looking, I wasn't quite sure, shall I do this or shall I like another one, which is like never give up.
Yep.
But no, that's too much of a, but think possibilities is, it always came into my mind when I was reviewing my career and when I took on a new role. And it's not that roles were enforced on me, it was always said, are you ready for it? Or we believe you're ready for it. For me, then it was always thinking of another possibility to grow and advance in my career. But I also use it all the time when I talk to young people. And I was lucky when I was working in Geneva to work closely with the hotels group Lyon and EHL, École Hôtelier Lausanne. And I was able to mentor and coach some of their masters and bachelor students. And I always talk to them about thinking possibilities as well, in terms of their career, in terms of their thesis they had to write.
Mm.
And that think possibilities, thinking outside the box, thinking new ways, different ways, not being stuck in a box, and being curious what others do, what others do better, what others do worse, and think of the possibilities how making things better. And that's part of what I'm looking at mentoring and coaching at the moment as well. On the project in down south, Western Australia, it's a lot of fantastic creative people who I'm working with, and I can learn a lot from them. But I sometimes also can think and think possibilities if you do it that way. How will that impact the future guest?
Yeah,
It works for everything.
it does. It does.
And I love that. I love short words. I don't like too long sentence because you forget about it, but think possibility. Yeah.
Yep. Short and to the point. I like that. Jürgen, you must have received a lot of advice over the years. What's
Yes.
probably the one piece of advice that sticks with you and has, in your mind, held you in good stead as you've gone throughout your career?
Yeah, I go back again to when I learned at the Kempinski and then later on became the number two. And I have to say, I had a very intense leader, very hierarchical, very old-fashioned in many ways.
Mhm.
Now, can you learn from that as well? Yeah, you can learn to be different
Yep.
because your leadership impacts the way people look at you, the way people work, the way people go through the day.
Mm.
It's being positive. Even though his leadership was kind of very tough, he taught me, and it is wise, is about details, attention to details.
Yeah.
And I remember when he said, and he said it already when I started the apprenticeship, he said, Jürgen, you know when you're ready, when you can walk through the lobby of the hotel. And the lobby was famous because you had a lot of well-known people, a lot of rich people sitting in the lobby. You had fur coats in winter lying over the chairs. It was like a luxury lobby tea house, for example, where people would come. And he would say, if you can walk through the lobby, from the entrance to the lobby, without looking too much everywhere, if you can tell how many ashtrays are full and how many coats are hanging over without looking, just walking straight through, then you are ready. Now, I thought, that's crazy, but I've never heard that before. But I tell you what, it's true.
Yeah.
My eyes, I have trained them so well and that became automatically that I can see things which are not correct, which are not right. And running a hotel, particularly, we're talking about luxury properties,
Yes.
and it's not about certain things are not right and in place, but it's also understanding which guest is not happy, which guest is happy.
Mm.
It's managing the environment, reading the environment. I think that was a great advice from someone. To be honest, I didn't look up that much because of his leadership style, because he was always like worried when he would walk by. But what he said, it made a lot of sense. And yeah, today, with whatever we do in hospitality, a lot of it is visual. When we stand at the front desk and you're checked in, you want the employee to look at your eyes. You don't want to stare down at a computer. We need technology, but we need technology to make our life easier so we can engage and look at the guests. And that's what I say. Our eyes are so important in our industry.
Very true.
So yeah, that's I think one of the advice. I mean, I got advice from many different people.
Of
I'm
course.
just one thing I stuck in. Yeah, much to the dismay of my wife, and it's like when I walk around the house, I see everything which is out of order, which is terrible. That's
I understand.
There's a negative side to this.
Of course.
Trust me.
Like any
Uh,
like any superpower.
Yeah, no, no, no. But it's again, when you look at uniforms, when you look at, yeah, it's grooming. And, we went through all of that in our industry. And
Mm.
it's not necessarily only about luxury. I think it's in generally when you are a host.
Yep. Jürgen, picking up on the technology, we've mentioned it a
Yeah,
couple of times, and obviously, I totally agree. Technology plays a role. You must have seen a lot of change in technology over the years. Where does it have its place, and where do you think we will probably go to in the future? I know some people are a little bit concerned that we need to obviously be balanced in our use of technology because we are a people first industry,
yeah.
and we need to keep that top of mind and not forget that. Based on what you've seen, because I've had previous guests, when they started, they had 140 or 138 staff in front desk, including a telex operator, multiple cashiers. Reservations department was extremely big because most of the reservations were entered manually. They were coming through the telex or they were coming through the phone. Obviously, we're seeing technology help in that respect, but at the same time, I think the guest experience has been improved,
Yeah.
and they're the key things. So, using your experience with technology, where do you think we're going to go? And are there any things that you think we should be cautious of?
Let me reach out a little bit further back because, funny enough, as you say, I grew up in our industry with all of this old technology, telex, and the big board.
Whitney board
At
and
the
yeah,
Whitney board at the Vier site in Munich, we had 365 rooms,
wow,
and every room was different. So
wow, okay.
and every room was different. So imagine you have that Whitney board in front of you. You got to know which room looks like that, which room looks like that, which color is that, and which color. So yeah, it was an immense learning. And if you look at technology, the way it's changed, it certainly made life a lot easier and faster because generations and people like everything a little bit faster nowadays. There are less patience, and the world unfortunately makes everything a little bit more impatient. Technology certainly helped that. The other reason why, and that's a little bit, yeah, I wouldn't say warrior, sorry, part, is that a lot of owners, developers pushed for a lot of technology to reduce number of staff
Yeah,
because of cost of labor, an effect which is there. But technology is really also there to help employees to do a faster and better job so they can engage more with the guests. And
100%.
that's really where technology should really focus on. A lot of guests like to find out things by themselves. So if a guest goes into a room, make everything as simple as possible for the guest to operate the room. Yes, you will have someone to bring you to the room, someone to explain where what is. But the less switches you have, the less complicated you make it, the better for the guest. The guests like to discover things themselves, and that's why it should be made so. Technology should make life for guests easier and for employees easier. And it's really about guest engagement, communication between guest and the teams and the operation, and teams communication between themselves. That is key, but you don't want to overuse technology either, because I don't see robots. Certainly, I personally, I still like the human touch, that the face-to-face, the human touch. I think is key to me. But giving technology to an employee so the employee can be in a total different way of engaging with the guest. Yes, absolutely. Does AI help? Yes, there's more and more artificial intelligence coming into our lives, into the way we do things, and it will certainly benefit the way we work and operate hotels, but also will benefit guests if it's used in the right manner. And that needs to be somewhere controlled by the technology companies also, that it's controlled in a proper way. I do a lot of research because of the projects I'm involved with on technology. I look at different companies. I know that all of the big hotel brands like Marriott, IG, Accor have their favorite technologies they're using. I look at some of the individual hotels, like Muse, for example, is one of the technologies out there who works with a lot of independent hotels. And I think it goes into the right direction.
Mm.
I think we're in the right direction as long there is a control.
Yep.
As long technology doesn't take over human engagement.
Yes, I totally agree.
I would want to then, if someone makes a reservation, to talk to a real voice. I like to be in touch with a real person,
Mm.
not with a computer voice. Will it happen? Yes, it will happen. Will some brands adapt this? Yes, there will.
Yeah.
My role now and my engagement is within the individual boutique type of world, luxury, and I see that personalized engagement must remain. That also has to do with wellness, because now you have this amazing amount of wellness trends, and both projects which I'm involved with have a lot of focus on wellness.
Mm.
And wellness is not just about your spa treatment or your massage, or, wellness is also about mental wellness, mental health,
Yep.
feeling good. Yeah, you might have a massage and afterwards come and say, do I feel good? But you can also stay in a place which makes you really feel good.
Mm.
The thing you touch, the feeling where you sit, the sleeping feeling, the looking out of the window, the
Mm.
feeling of nature, the sense of place, all of that gives you a feeling of wellness. Technology can assist with us.
Yep.
So I still believe in high touch, low tech,
Yep.
invisible technology,
Invisible technology. Yeah.
which serves the guest and the employees. That's what I like. That's what I tell everyone.
And a question leading on from that, Jürgen, would be 10 years into the future, what do you think hotels might look like then? Will we see robots actually carrying people's luggage up to the rooms, maybe in certain brands? Will we see AI voice assistants actually handling a bulk of the reservations? I always say, I echo everything you've said. Invisible technology is great, but also offering the guest choice. So I never believe that we'll get it. We should be at a point where it's like it's technology is the only option. You've always got to have a fallback, for want of a better term, for guests who said there will be always people that want high touch, and there'll be people that will sacrifice high touch for convenience. So what do you think, we might see in 10 years' time? Will it be much of the same, or we'll have a lot of invisible technology potentially?
Yes, and I don't want to sound, and perhaps with my voice earlier, I might sound perhaps a little bit old-fashioned because I've been around for too long in the industry. But we got to look at current generation and future generations
Of course.
and their needs because they are our guests today and tomorrow
Yes.
and into the future. Now, with social media, with the use of mobile phones and where mobile phones will go and be like in the next 10 years, where technology will be in the next 10 years, yes, absolutely, yes, I think there will be a demand for more technology, but I also fully agree there should be a choice because you cannot say everything is good for everyone. That is wrong. We should not dictate. Technology should not dictate what your experience should be in the future. You, as a guest, you should dictate what experience you want in the future. So you have to give your guests the choice. Couldn't agree more. If you look at generation now and the generation future, a lot of them want that on the spot technology.
Yep.
I don't want to talk to someone. I'm walking into a hotel with my mobile phone. I'm talking to someone. I want to get straight into my room. I don't want to, don't talk to me. Yes, you will have these guests today and tomorrow, and that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
But you have someone else who, I can talk to someone. Hotel is my heaven. So hotels got to gear up. Doesn't matter if you're IG, you're Marriott, or you're Accor. You got to have both. And yes, because they have so many different brands, some brands will be more high tech. Some brands perhaps will be more a bit of both. That's why they have 34 plus brands. It does make sense. I think another key point is because of the difficulty of getting enough young people to go into our industry, you might also need more technology in the future because you might not find enough young people wanting to go into our industry, which is in one way sad.
Yep.
I think there's one of the way we need to find a way of bringing more young people into our industry because, sorry, I lived it. It's a great industry and I still live it. But technology will help to cover that problem with some properties. And you look at the amount of hotels, the size of hotels. Well, look at some hotels, you have to carry your own luggage. You get a luggage trolley and you bring it up. So if you do that, why not have a robot to do that?
Of course.
In my boutique hotel world, no, it's got to be still a human touch. And you will never get it from a robot, but there's enough hotel brands who will most probably offer that in the future. And the same when you call room service, or perhaps you don't have room service anymore. Technology will change the future, and the young generation will, I think, partly want to have to change the technology. So I think technology, the big companies in the world have to listen to all sides because you will still have both sides wanting to move into the future. So I think a combination of both is definitely something which will happen in the future.
Yeah, I agree. And I think to your point about technology helping our staff basically achieve more, we'll need to pick up the shortfall, I think, via the use of technology. And I like your description of that being invisible technology because that technology may not be seen by the guest, but what it's allowing the team to do is to, be more productive and to achieve more what I would call, face time with the guest.
Yeah,
Less
I
paperwork, more
yeah,
actual true interaction.
actually. One more point to add there is because, I always put in many ways in the business I used to run, I put people first, and I always put my employees first before the guests because I know if I look after them well, they look after the guests. That's the old saying, it still works today. And I think with technology today, it makes also life easier for our employees so that they have more time for themselves. If you work an 8 hour or 10-hour shift and you run around, you do like, that's all great. but you also want to have time for yourself. And that is, I think, very important when you develop a hotel today, that you make sure you have great facilities for your staff. You have great technology for your staff, which not only helps make the job easier, but for also for them to gain more knowledge, which is technology just for them. So I think we need to look at that part as well whenever we address any developments. And I know a lot of hotel companies already do that and do that since quite some time. So we can't do without technology. Technology can't do without us. It just needs to be, yeah, we need to look at everyone's need in the right way. So
Jürgen, as we get ready to wrap up today, what advice would you give to anybody that is either looking at hospitality as their career or that's just started on that journey? Maybe it's go back and read that book, but what other advice would you give them based on your experience?
yeah, look, no, the book is, you can still find that book, but I don't think that you would experience that in every hotel you stay in. I was lucky, and so I've been in many, many more of my years. But I think important is that you like to engage, you like people. And I think if you're someone who loves, family, who loves guests, who loves to be around people, then it's the perfect industry because you're always surrounded by people. Even if there are times you work in the back of the house, you work with people, you work front of the house, you work with people. And I think one of the most important parts for me was I can understand different cultures. I can travel. If I travel on holidays, I will never experience people the way I've experienced them. I've never really 100% understood people until I was actually living and working in that country. And yes, you look back and you think, yeah, but I have to work shifts, I have to work long hours, and I might have to work sometimes on the weekends when my friends go out. But then you always have to look at the good side. Sometimes, and I looked at it the way sometimes I was off middle of the week and I could do things which others couldn't do because they were not off during the. So you got to look at the positive side. You need a lot of self-motivation. You got to gather yourself around with positive people. Positiveness is so important in our industry. Yeah, once you're in it and you put your foot in it, put your foot deeper and deeper inside, really understand what hospitality is all about. You don't want to take your feet out anymore. Stick to it. Stick to it.
I
I
love that.
think that's an important part. Stick
It
to
is.
it.
Yeah.
And you will be rewarded. And it doesn't mean everyone needs to become a general manager. How many chefs became famous chefs? How many chefs have become restaurant owners? It's not about reaching the pinnacle. If you want, you can anywhere in the world. But it's about developing that passion, and you get that in the industry.
I love that. Jürgen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.